Hello and welcome. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to the webinar that we are calling Structuring Coordination and Safety on a Live Industrial Site. This is the latest installment in our series of webinars in which we talk with some of our clients who are willing to share the amazing work they're doing using Vcad. Vcad, of course, for those who may not know, is the first solution to connect BIM data and models in Power BI. Our panelists today will be telling us more about some of the benefits of such a solution, in particular regarding the work they have done on the Strasbourg water treatment project, which, as we will see in a minute, had several interesting restrictions that called for innovative solutions and technology implementations. So after an introduction of the project goals and the architecture that was actually implemented, we will get to see an example of some of the Power BI reports that have been implemented to aid in the construction and management of the project. This is a truly an original implementation that has several useful benefits. But before we do all of that, let's start with some introductions. So I, of course, am Nicola Migliore. I am the Product Development Manager for the Vcad project at Biologic. I normally oversee the various steps of development of the Vcad solution and help out with outreach. And today, I'll be moderating the discussion. With us today, we have joining us Sylvain Lemasson. He is a BIM expert and water treatment plant construction engineer at Digital Construction Factory. He has many years of experience working in the engineering and construction environments. And also he has been an important voice in spreading knowledge about BIM technologies and methodologies. And so we're very happy to have you. Hello, Sylvain. Welcome.
Thanks.
It's great having you. I think I mentioned everything. If I forgot anything in your introduction, feel free to chastise me and add.
Thanks a lot. I think it's enough.
Okay, great. Finally, one last thing I need to mention is some of the people watching may have noticed in our previous posts promoting today's webinar, we were supposed to be joined also by Valentin Barth. However, he is the project manager at SUEZ, and he had, unfortunately, an unforeseen work-related emergency. So, long story short, he can't join us today. But we're in good hands with Sylvain, and I'm sure he'll be able to answer all our questions. Speaking of questions, during the presentation, like we do with all our webinars, the folks watching can go ahead and write their questions. You should find a little question box where you can type in your questions, and we will make sure to get to those questions at the end of the presentation. So go ahead and start writing them right away. That way we have them ready to go when we need them later on. For now, let's get started with the actual presentation itself. And Sylvain, before we go too much deep into how everything works, could you give us a bit of an overview of what the project is and what it was about?
Yeah, thanks, Nicola. So to explain what is the project of Strasbourg, yes, I will try to put in the context to understand why we did all these dashboards and all this architecture. So the project of Strasbourg is the refurbishment of the old incinerator of the wastewater plant of Strasbourg. We need to install a new incinerator in the same building of the existing one, and then to dismantle the existing. So the idea is we have a really tough sequencing to do this work, because we need, of course, to maintain all the continuity of the operation during the construction. So we divided it in 3 main phases to be sure that we have always one incinerator in operation. And because it's a project with kind of big density of equipment and instrument pipes. It's why we decided to manage the data really with this architecture. And to perhaps come back at an important point on this project, it was on the tender request by our client to follow a BIM process from the beginning.
Okay, very interesting. So already out of the bat, we have some interesting requirements. So BIM process from the start, and the most complex or particular thing, so you had to work on a plant that couldn't be completely shut down, so having to organize everything so that it still keeps working, even though you're actively working on it. So yes, so it sounds like a tricky challenge. Okay, very interesting. And so let's move along and let's see sort of how you address this challenge. Tell us a little about this BIM strategy that was implemented.
Yes, so the idea, as I say, because in the tender it was request to follow this BIM process, we decided early with the project manager that we'll need to spend time to do these 3D models in detail to bring some data in this model. We want that everything that we put in this 3D model are useful, either for the study or after for the site construction. And it's why we're reflecting at the early beginning to be sure on this organization that all what time we will spend will make sense for the future. And the first step was first to rebuild the environment, the existing environment. So we needed to do a 3D scan that we save on Scene 2. It was important because this first step was allow us to remodel the existing plant and to visualize the sequencing that we'll need to do on the design that we can do. So from this point cloud, we implemented in Dalux and we overlaid with the 3D model. This was the first part which make us the possibility to validate with our customer the 3D model without 2D drawing. So we just I want to say use at the maximum that we can this 3D model to validate all the design that we did, and then to communicate between the different stakeholders of the project, the civil work companies, the electrician, all our subcontractors, everybody use Dalux to federate all the consortium around these 3D models and the data. But even if Dalux is very useful and can show a lot of things, the aspect that we couldn't add in Dalux was an important thing for process company was the PNIDs. Because even if we had detailed 3D models, we need to have the PNIDs for the process, because it's only on the PNIDs that we will have the exhaustivity of all the equipment, the instrument that we will install on the plant. So what we did is to connect the PNID with this 3D model through Vcad. For this, I will come back perhaps after more in details, but we put the PNIDs on these 3D models on this on Vcad, and it allows us to highlight different elements that we needed to show.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so quite an elaborate sort of BIM implementation. It sounds like you have point cloud, you have a 3D rendering, and 2D CAD drawings as well that all need to sort of talk together and cooperate. So quite an elaborate solution. Okay, yes, cool. Okay, let's dive a little more in. So sort of the architecture. So we talked about several of these points, but if you want to add anything else to the actual architecture.
Yes, so if we go a little bit more in the detail, how does it work? We have really Dalux who will first allow the different people to view and communicate around the 3D models on the point clouds. What will be important with Dalux is after that we will be able to do some inspection plans on some forms on these 3D models. It makes it really easy to do a form to use the data which are in this 3D model and to operate it on the site, because there is a possibility to have the application on the smartphone on the or the tablet on Dalux. And so those information that we get from those forms or these inspection plans, we can connect it on Power BI, and with Vcad, which can read the PNIDs in DWG, we can highlight some of these elements. As a quick example to understand more what I want to say is we did an inspection plan on the delivery of equipment. For example, all the equipment which arrive on site, when they arrive on site, they are stored in the warehouse before to be installed. And so the supervisor who store it will fill a form on his application Dalux. And Power BI will connect and pick up this information to say, okay, this equipment is now in a status that it's delivery on site and it's stored in this area. And then, of course, when it will be installed, we will have a new form on different element which will be a request to check, and it will go on other status to say, okay, now it's installed and it can be connected on everything. And the last step is with Power Automate, we do an automatic weekly report by email, which send the main insight of the site to the project manager, the project director, and all the people who want to have a quick overview on what happened during the week on the site, and with some pictures which are picked on Dalux.
Okay, nice. One thing I find interesting of this architecture, which I don't often see with the work done by other of our clients, is that exactly that last step you were talking about. So creating those weekly reports that are automatically pushed out to management. Because sometimes we've seen in some projects, you build this whole big architecture, you have a bunch of data feeding into the reports, but then if no one goes and opens the reports, it's a lot of energy for nothing. So the operatives maybe are logging in and reviewing the reports and using them daily, but then management sometimes needs to be a little stimulated. So I like the idea of Power Automate sending those emails to management so they can review the data without having to go look around for it. That's a very interesting last section of the chain I like.
Exactly.
Okay, nice. Okay, so why don't you, I think you have some examples of these reports that we're talking about. So if you want to share those with us, I'm going to give you control of the screen.
Yes, I think it will be easier to visualize like this.
Yes.
What I can propose you is to show you 4 dashboards that we did, which shows the organization of the plant. Basically, the first one is a dashboard with highlight the organization of the process that we split between system and subsystem that facilitate the process understanding of the site, but also the organization of the time schedule for the commissioning team with this different system. And we can see always the PNID on the 3D models.
I'm sorry, Sylvain, just 1 second. We don't see your screen yet. So if you want to share that before we go too much in detail.
No, I don't know what happened. Perhaps because normally everything looks to be fine.
Let me, okay, yes, now we see it, perfect. and maybe just needed to update. Okay, very good.
My connection is not the best. I hope that it will be enough. So what I wanted to say is that on one side, I show the pen idea. On the other side, the 3D model with some colors which highlight the different system or subsystem. And of course, I can select an element to show it. Where is it? On highlight it on the 3D model or the PNID. This
okay,
was
cool.
the
So
first
basically,
sorry, you.
Yeah, sorry, no, I just wanted to clarify. So basically, you're syncing those 2D views with the PNIDs with the actual 3D model that you had generated and used in Dalux. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then for when we started the study, we needed to first check the consistency between the PNIDs and the 3D models. And this was another dashboard that we did with some simple colors that we see in green. It's all what is on the 3D model, and what is in red, it's what it's not on the 3D model. And we can easily see the missing element. We can see that, for example, even here, it's just a revision. So probably it just means that it's not yet on the 3D model, but it will be done in the next revision. And so we save a lot of time to do this, because before we needed to simply have an Excel file with all the tags, or to print some PNIDs on the paper and to check manually, which could be quite long and could make some mistakes. So like this, it's easy to quickly highlight the difference between the documents.
Very nice. So basically, you automated this quality check to make sure that the 3D model had all the information coming from the 2D drawings, reducing human error and manual work, basically. Very nice.
Exactly.
And before we move along, one quick curiosity. So here you have one 3D rendering, and I'm assuming several different 2D drawings. How many, just out of curiosity, how many 2D drawings are mapping to a single 3D model?
So on this project, we have around 45 PNIDs folio. So each one is one DWG, and I have one 3D model in NWD. So that means that we have connected altogether 46 files. So all are connected finally.
Nice.
It's quite easy after when we did the first connection between the PNIDs, the first PNID on the 3D model.
Mm-hmm. So you have to work for the first one, but then the other ones kind of come by themselves. Okay, nice. Again, something very particular. I haven't seen someone match that many files in one single report page, so that's quite impressive.
Thanks. And the next step was to start, of course, the installation on site. And as I was saying at the beginning, one of the difficulty of this site is that we have really a small footprint for the quantity of work, and they will have some kind of peak of activity, which will generate, of course, co-activity. And because the safety is really important for SUEZ, we decided to manage it with a dashboard which can highlight the different activity on site at each moment, and to be sure that if I organize one work, they will not have another company who will come. And so it's why, with again a form that we did on Dalux, we select where we do the work, and we organize to have some all this information. And like this, we can see easily. And if I click on the element, I can go on Dalux to see my work, who is ongoing.
Very nice. Okay,
So,
cool. And each one of those icons in the model, that is representing a work team, correct? Or an activity?
yes, exactly. It's one activity with represented with 1 point. And
Okay.
so we can see when it starts, when it finished, how long is it. And after more details if we go directly on Dalux.
Sure. Cool. Yes.
So
Also
no,
this, I
it's
like that you have high level information here, and then if you need the technical details, you can navigate to those and get to that information. Very nice.
yeah, because of course one of the issue when we did this dashboard is to don't put too much information that would make it not so easy to understand. And that's why we decided to just put the main information on to make it easy transfer to Dalux for the extra information that would be requested.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me.
So the last one is the overview of the status of the equipment on site. So if I show on Dalux, we add some inspection plan for different activities. And if I pick one random one, I can fill up here it's the delivery form. All the information which are pre-filled with information that we have in the 3D models to avoid to rewrite everything like it was before. And I just have to fill this information when it was delivered, how many parcels and everything. I can add some pictures. And this information will be so connected on Power BI and will make that here it will detect that this equipment was delivered on site. And I can see exactly the situation that I have on site, and have a quick overview of my plant and the different the progress on site. It's basically what was doing before the supervisors in their office, that they were had the PNIDs on the papers and they were highlighted on the manually the status of each element.
Nice. So again, automating a lot of work, reducing errors, and it looks like this report here is kind of a simplified window into the Dalux ecosystem and database that can more easily be shared and yeah, accessed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Because just to the Dalux allow a lot of things, and it's very good, this inspection forms. Unfortunately, we can't get the result directly on Dalux of this inspection form to highlight it again in the viewer. So it's why we need to have this external solution like Power BI and Vcad to highlight the result of these forms.
Okay, so not only a window into what's already there, but also a new way to represent that data, that giving you more flexibility basically than what was normally available.
Sure.
Very nice. And I like how we saw three completely different examples: progress tracking, safety, and technical validation. So different focuses, but always using the same underlying data and models as well. That's very interesting. Okay, well, Sylvain, thank you for showing us a bit of this great work you did. I'm going to take back the screen. Here we go. There. Okay, and so we're going to be reviewing the questions from our viewers in just a second. But before we get to those questions, I actually have a couple final thoughts of my own. I made a couple notes while you were talking. So a couple questions, if I could. So first off would be, from your point of view, if you were to summarize, what is the strategic advantage of this sort of integration? Why is this useful?
This is really this was important to customize, I want to say, the data or the three models highlight from our or skill or discipline, which is the process, because Dalux is really really good software, really nice and very useful, but unfortunately Dalux is cover all the different disciplines and skills in the construction. Every company, every skill need a specific element to be highlighted. On this element, we couldn't do it on Dalux, and especially if I come back on the original point, ADP and IDs, then it is really important for all the industries. You need to have the PNIDs, and it was the only way that we find to connect the 3D models to the PNIDs.
Okay, yes, that makes sense. And so do you think that this sort of a setup and architecture is scalable to other projects, similar projects that you might undertake in the future?
Definitely. We expect to do it. We spend a little bit of time, you can imagine, to reflect on how we can do it on this project. We did some tests, some change, of course. And what is important is, again, if you need to follow up your construction for the process, and you need to follow up not only through a 3D model, but to PNIDs, this will be useful, and so we can reproduce it for the next one.
Okay, and having sort of completed this setup and learned, I'm sure, a lot from this experience, is there anything that you think you would do differently in a future project? Maybe something that you would tweak, or are you satisfied with the way you did things now?
For sure, because even if I was saying at the beginning that it was really important for us to reflect to be sure that all our data that we are putting in the system are useful and are used for the studies on the site construction. We realized that some were not optimized or not the best organization for some, and we needed to adjust. So definitely the next one, the next project, we will do better again with this experience.
Okay, of course. Yeah. The important thing is we're always learning. Sure, every time it gets easier. Okay, cool. Okay, so let me get to some of the questions by the people in chat. So I'm going to read these out to you. I think most of them will be addressing you, but if there's any questions for my side also, I'm happy to answer. Okay, so first question, what technical skills or prerequisites are needed to implement this kind of integration?
So to implement this integration of Vcad, of course, you will need to know Power BI to know how to organize your data, Power Query, and to manage a dashboard, because there is this template from Vcad that are interesting, but which are not proposing this this connection directly. So you will need to dig a little bit in the data with and so have this knowledge, or to learn on this Power Query code.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so definitely, but some Power BI knowledge is absolutely something you want to look for. Okay, next question. How did you manage the data alignment between Vcad and Dalux over time? Was it automated or a manual process?
This is a good question. We needed to do manually, because Dalux is reading the IFCs that we put on the system, and Vcad, sorry, is connected to ACC, where we upload some NWD and DWG. So we needed to synchronize, but manually, this update. We generally just have an organization to update it for Dalux when it was a peak of activities during the studies twice a week. On Vcad, it was upon their request when we had some consistency checking, which was planned. On doing the site, of course, the updates of the 3D models on the PNIDs are not so fun. So we also organize just the frequency we adapt according to the studies.
Okay. This actually brings another question of mine, because we didn't even mention this before, but what type of 3D models we were using. So it sounds like you said IFC in Dalux and the Navisworks was then being synchronized in Vcad. Is that right? So that would be a Navisworks that contained the IFC files from Dalux?
So we did the 3D models with the software is3D from Aveva, and we directly export some IFCs from is3D. It's, I'm not mistaken, something like 10 or 12 IFCs. And it's also do an automatic export of NWD directly from there, which was easier to manage because we have only one file on than
Sure.
all this federation of the IFCs.
Okay. All right, next question. This one's a hard one. So how much time, costs, and what kind of resources are required to set up an integration like this? Is it feasible for smaller projects too?
It's difficult to say because, to be honest, there was a big part of the time at the beginning, which was to clarify what we want, what we need. And it's always another understanding of the project, how does it work, to be sure. I would say that to do one dashboard, perhaps hopefully about 1 week of work. No, there is often some exchange after when you use it. Of course, there is some feedback that you need to adapt. So it depends, of course, of the if it's clear what you want on the complexity of the system, or the connection that you want to do. If we just do connection between Vcad that we, or if we add an extra connection with Dalux, it will take a little bit more time. And it's always also the fact that if you do a first one, after to do the other dashboard, you will save time because you have the first base which is already pre-prepared.
Yep, that makes sense.
But for the last connection on if it's feasible for smaller projects, to me, I didn't see any problem to do it. Of course, it's to see if it's interesting financially to invest on it. Probably if you have only one project, it could be not so much interesting. But if you have few projects that you do a standard, a template that you can reproduce, it can make sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. In general, the clearer the ideas are, the more it's feasible. Otherwise, it's a lot of work. Yeah, just figuring out at the beginning how to start. Okay. So similar question, how long does it take to create a report like this? I think you just mentioned it. On average, you said about a week, but of course it depends on how complex the report is, how complex the data connections.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Which type of files and data formats are supported by Vcad? Oh, I can answer this. Is it possible to use IFC files? Okay, which type of files are supported by Vcad? So we support all the major formats, I should say, Revit, IFC, of course, Navisworks, like Sylvain was saying, DWGs, DGNs, and we add to the list as time goes on. Some time ago we added InfraWorks. There's a bunch of different options. I'd say the big ones we support, and when needed we add some of the smaller ones. Is it possible to use IFC? Yes, definitely. So just go out and try it. Okay. Next question. Did you encounter any resistance or difficulties from site workers when using tools like Vcad and Dalux? This is more to the culture of things.
Yeah, this is not only this is general, but the digitalization system, of course, process. It could be sometimes a little bit difficult. On this project, I want to say that I have a chance to have one project manager who was really motivated to do it, and didn't hesitate to manage his time and the organization to involve this future worker in this reflection on how we will do it. And it's why even the supervisor on site, which came, I want to say, later after the study in the project, we already involved them at the beginning to know exactly what they want, what could be useful, to take their feedback and to adapt on it. Also, the fact that myself, I was doing commissioning and supervising before in the past, I knew a little bit what this could be interesting for them. And so after, when we started to deploy this software on site, we also managed that I spent time with them to train them to do the first form, this first inspection plan directly with them on like this. It's make it a little bit smoother, the integration. But yes, you need to invest time at the beginning for this and I think what is really important is the human contact for this to really go with them and explain them, show them how does it work, because if you let them do it by themselves, they can try 2-3 times, but after they will stop to do it, and you will unfortunately lost all.
Yes, that's a very good point. If you want the buy-in from site workers, involve them as soon as possible. That way, they're participating in it, and you're sure you're making something useful for them as well. That's a very good point. Okay. Can Vcad be used on a custom web page outside of Power BI? That's for me. Can Vcad be used on a custom web page outside of Power BI? Yes, we actually have made some updates to Vcad in recent times, and now it can be embedded directly in a web page without the use of Power BI around it. Of course, it's a little more involved. You need to make all the connections. You need to make the API calls. So it's not as simple as going through Power BI, but it's definitely something that you can do and we're supporting. Okay, I think we'll do the last question because we're running out of time. We'll then perhaps reply to some of the other questions that are left over. But the last one, do you encounter performance speed issues while joining DWG files with 3D models in one page of a dashboard? So this, I think, is referring to the technical checks that you were doing with the PNIDs.
Yeah. This when we had one DWG and one 3D models, of course, at the beginning, the first load take a little bit of time to load the model, because of course it's a few megas, even if Navisworks models are quite light. But when it's load, after it's quite fluid, it's okay.
Yeah, so first load is a little longer, and then it goes quicker. Okay. Okay, last one for reals. As soon as we got this one quickly, do you manage those connections yourself, or do you need Vcad tech support for that? I'm assuming this is referring, to the connections to the data and the model in your report.
Sorry, yes, I did it myself, but because it was the first time that I was using Vcad, I had a few questions that to understand why does it work, and so I contact Nicolas, was always quick to help me for this element, but mainly I did myself.
Yes, you can definitely do all of this by yourself. If you need some help, we're happy to help, especially if you're doing cool things like Sylvain. It's funner to help in that case. Okay, so with that, thank you for everyone who joined us. Thank you for the questions, everyone, and especially thank you, Sylvain, for hopping on this webinar with us and showing us the work you've been doing.
Yeah, welcome. It was a pleasure.
All right. So thank you, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.